Kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. What's up?
How long is it going to be till they notice the microphone and they know what we're talking about?
Oh, only the real treasures. Look at that. There's lights. There's a new camera angle. It's all fucking kicking off tonight, I tell you.
I just want to say, we'll talk more about this shortly.
Not quite sure what happened there.
Have you got
yes,
that?
We've got a new desk, and it's got some features that I have wasted a lot of time on today.
How are you feeling right now, Chewy?
Traumatized.
So listen, we've got a new toy. It's here. So this is a new toy. Thanks to our patrons, let's be honest. But I have wasted quite a bit of time on the toy today, which is not really a toy. It's an important piece of the job we do. That we're just going to talk about this and show you guys shortly and have a bit of fun with it. But see, this is what inspires me. See, oh, I just went past it. That one there. See that one there? Ready for it? There you go. Just thought I'd put that there for you.
Look, I had one question when I came in, Pat.
Yeah.
What was that question?
I can't remember.
Does it have an air horn button?
Oh.
Does it have an air horn button? All the people want to know. There we go. Right.
And I think something
We're
else
hitting
that
the big leagues now.
I think something like that I just learned when I started was I think the audio dips by itself when we talk, Chewy. So when we're watching YouTube, so we start talking over it, I think it dips by itself. It's kind of fast. Anyway, look, we've got a guest. Stop. We've got a guest. And we're going to talk about a few things tonight. Of course, News Hub has made their announcement. See, I get a desk and Chewy needs a camera. We're going to talk about Anne Genter's and the exclusive that TVNZ got. We're going to talk about National's prison number fluff, I should say. Honestly, when I saw Mr. Luxon this morning, I was kind of like, people make mistakes. Is it really that big of a deal? We'll go down that journey. Trust me, Whānau. We'll go down that journey. And we're going to talk about some other things as well. Samantha Hayes being announced as the not the News Hub, the Stuff 3 newsreader, which is something we actually said. We said it would be her. It is her. We'll have a quick look at that tonight and some other bits and bobs as well. Excuse me. But while Chewy's sorting his crap out, let us welcome to the show one of the founders of Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa. It is Wendy Allison. Wendy, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Chewy's just going off with his, I think I scared him away. I think that's probably what it was. He was freaking out from the noises. We've got you on today because we want to talk about something that you guys are involved with, or you guys are running. Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa. Today is International Harm Reduction Day. You guys have launched Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa with an open letter to the government that says, amongst other things, HRCA seeks a new fit-for-purpose drug law for Aotearoa New Zealand rooted in science, experience and evidence to promote harm reduction and project human rights as originally recommended by the New Zealand Law Commission in 2011. Now, we can talk about that's taken 13 years and we still haven't seen that yet, but a big part of your letter was the signatories to it. And there is a huge number of signatories, be they supporting organisations or be they people who are supporting the open letter in and around the world. And I think it's 155 doctors, is that right? 155 doctors?
It's 155 signatories. They're not all
right,
doctors, but... Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. To want to do this. So I know what Chewy's doing. He's being polite and staying out, but I'll bring him in. I think we can all just start chatting together. It makes it the most sense. Wendy, why don't you tell us about what Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa is and why you're launching it today and what you're trying to achieve?
Okay, that's a big question, but in a nutshell, Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa brings together all of the people who individually believe that we need drug reform in Aotearoa. This has been brewing for quite a while. As alluded to, the Law Commission recommended in 2011 that the Misuse of Drugs Act be replaced by an act administered by the Ministry of Health, and that sunk like a lead balloon, never to be heard of again. But people have been continuing in the background working on their own projects towards drug reform. And what we have lacked in this country has been a cohesive push from all of these individual people and groups who see this as the most sensible way forward. And so what we've done basically is just pull everybody together under one banner to try and get some real advocacy, some coherent and a collaboration between all of these people who think this should happen, and actually get something moving instead of forever being ignored because there aren't enough of us in one place.
You said something interesting there. You said you're getting these groups and people together because they think it's the most valuable way forward. Why is it the most valuable way forward? What's different about how we're doing things now versus the valuable way forward which you guys are, suggesting?
Well, the part in the letter that spoke about science, well-being and evidence, the Misuse of Drugs Act doesn't actually contain any of those things. We have this 50-year-old law that was essentially designed as a tool to marginalize groups that the American government didn't like back in the 1970s. And the UN convinced all the countries to jump on board, and we ended up with drug prohibition. And in the 50 years in which it has been attempting to reduce drug use, it has failed to reduce drug use. Whoever wants to use drugs does use drugs. And it has also failed to reduce harm. In fact, it has developed quite a plethora of harms of its own by, for example, handing control of the drug supply to organised crime and creating violence within neighbourhoods and ruining people's lives and making sure that people who have problematic drug use issues are too scared to speak up about it until they can't hide it anymore. And so there's this whole raft of things that have happened because of prohibition that is actively harming people that we believe don't need to happen. And these things are not rooted in science, they're not rooted in evidence. It's an entirely moral-based law, and we just think that it's time to start doing something about that.
Is harm reduction about just a free-for-all, or is it more about taking it out of the hands of the penal system, the justice system, and putting it in the hands of the medical fraternity?
It's right in the middle, I would say, in between a free-for-all, which would be, I don't know, laissez-faire capitalism, let's legalize all drugs and just let people do whatever they want, and what we currently have, which is criminalization, imprisonment, control of people's lives, destroying people's lives. And neither of these things will reduce harm effectively. There is actually a very nice graph on the HRCA website that you can look at that demonstrates the spectrum and where the minimum amount of harm happens, and that is in an area called legal regulation. So drugs are legal, but they're still well regulated. The supply is regulated, which is what takes it out of the hands of organized crime and reduces the issues that drug checking organizations like Know Your Stuff exist to address, of lack of quality control in the market and people dying from taking things that they are not what they are supposed to be. But you are also permitting people who, the 85 to 95% of people who use drugs regularly who come to no harm, to continue to do these things and make these choices for themselves without regulating their lives unduly.
Chewy, you want to jump in?
So I guess to answer your question, no, it is definitely not a free-for-all.
Gotcha.
This seems to be sort of lining up with what's been tried and seems to be quite successful in places like Portugal, where they have pivoted around to drug addiction and harm reduction into it being a health and addiction issue rather than a criminality point of view. And from everything that I've read about that, it seems to be quite successful. And here in New Zealand, we've had programs around like here in Dunedin, the first needle exchange, and that was initially put forward as encouraging intravenous drug use, but in fact it was just stopping people spreading hepatitis and HIV around. This seems to be something really sensible and has a lot of worth to be debated. Do you think this current government is going to see it that way?
It's really difficult to say. It appears that this current government has very little interest in drugs as an issue at all, and the national government has never specifically supported harm reduction initiatives or drug reform in general. They voted against drug checking, which was the most recent harm reduction intervention that was legalised in this country. ACT spoke for it. They supported it. One would assume that a party like ACT that claims to be for minimum government and for freedom of choice would support something like this. However, it's very, very difficult at the moment, as you have probably discussed at length already, to predict what anyone in this government is going to do. But we would have presented this to a Labour government had the Labour government won the election. This is about the time for us as opposed to which government we think we're going to get the most traction with. We're just tired of waiting while people die.
Say, like, hypothetically, there was a political party who aligns themselves with people who are more likely to want harm reduction. Like, if that ever mysterious thing ever happened, unlike the last Labour government, came to you and basically said, what do we want to do? What do we want to legislate? Like, what is actually this world that you're wanting look like in legislation, in society?
Okay, that's a really good question. And you Chewy, you spoke before about what they've done in Portugal. What they did in Portugal was to decriminalise possession and use of small amounts of substances, and they removed the criminal sanctions for people who were caught with those substances. However, they did still allow the government to direct people into health programs to address personal use issues should they find that they needed them. What they failed to do was do anything at all about regulation of the supply, which means that in Portugal, they still need drug checking. They still have problems with organised crime. They still have people coming into contact with the sort of criminal underground in order to access drugs. So while drug harm, and especially from the most dangerous substances like heroin, for example, has reduced significantly in Portugal and everybody is seeing this as a great success, they still have considerable issues around the supply of drugs. So what we would like to see happen in New Zealand is for the supply to be regulated in a very similar evidence-based way, so that supply of drugs, for example, to minors is obviously never going to be legal. And I have heard that in Aotearoa, it's easier for underage kids to get weed than it is to get alcohol, which suggests that having a regulated supply actually does make it harder for kids to get at stuff. So, and given that most young people start making their first decisions about drugs when they are well underage because they're coming across them at those ages, that would suggest that the prohibitionist approach is not preventing kids from coming into contact with drugs. So what we would like to see is regulation of the supply that allows people to purchase and use certain amounts of substances, that ensures that the supply is clean, for want of a better word, there is quality control, that it is manufactured and sold by people with licenses who know what they're doing, that people have access to harm reduction information when they purchase these substances, and that substances are regulated based on the evidence of the actual risks associated with them, instead of this crazy classification system we currently have where a drug like LSD, which has never killed anybody, is class A, but you can buy a drug like alcohol, which millions of people die globally every year, you can buy over the counter It just makes no sense, and we would like to see that regulated based on evidence.
There is a couple of questions in the chat, if you're okay with that. One of them is from Jezza for a super chat. Thank you, Jezza. Says, is there somewhere we can see how legislation takes out of the hands of organised crime?
Unfortunately, there is no current situation in the Western world where drugs have been taken out of the hands of organised crime through legalisation, because most countries have gone down the decriminalisation track and they haven't touched the supply side. However, if you would like to read about legal regulation and the approach that could be taken and the way in which that could work, I suggest going and having a look at some of the resources on the HRCA website, because there is information there from people who've been studying this for years and years and years, and comparisons between the different approaches to drugs that and how they have worked and what they have done. But unfortunately, nobody has yet been brave enough to go, you know what, prohibition really doesn't work, so let's do something different.
People want to know as well, just to give them a heads up right now, HRCA.NZ is the website that you're referring to, HRCA.NZ. There's also a comment in there, isn't there, Chewy, from Gary, who says this, don't forget to congratulate and thank Wendy for getting our drug checking services legalised almost single-handed. So from Gary to you, someone who knows of the work you're doing, wanted to make sure that there are people watching who appreciate you and want you to know that.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you, Gary. And it really wasn't single-handed. It started off with 4 of us, and by the time the government heard about it, there were about 20 of us, and now there are 800 of us.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a team
here,
effort. I was just the one up the front with the big mouth.
You've released your letter. That's out there now. For people who are watching or who are listening to this, what can they do and where to from today for the Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa?
Well, for people who are interested in supporting what we're trying to do, the logical thing is to join us. And that way you will be in on the activities that we're doing. We are intending to become quite active and ensure that we are making our voice heard in the public space. We will be making submissions. We intend to become a group that people come to for information on what harm reduction actually means and how it can be implemented effectively in Aotearoa. The other thing is putting pressure on MPs, because one of the things that we're up against is the inertia of 50 years of marginalisation of drug users, and everybody being convinced that if anybody is allowed to take drugs, then next thing, you know, things are going to go terribly, terribly wrong, and drug users are losers and all that kind of stuff. And demonstrating that this is not actually the case, that drug use is normal and it's drug harm that is not normal, is part of what we need to do. And that requires a groundswell of public support. So if you support us, talk about it.
Chewy, got anything else before we wrap up?
At the risk of being slightly tangential, I guess with the drug checking, are you associated with like know your stuff and that sort of thing, the checking your substances at festivals, that sort of thing? One thing I've always wanted to ask someone about, how has their attitude to that changed?
Well, when we started doing it, we thought we were going to get arrested. We were absolutely certain we were going to get arrested. We had a code sign that we called out when we saw police, and people would duck and dive and make sure that they weren't around. But as time went by, we realized that the police actually knew what we were doing, and they were tacitly, because they weren't allowed to speak publicly, they were tacitly allowing us to get on with it, because they knew that people who came to see us were not going to be seeing them later. And they recognized recognize that what we were doing was actually reducing not only drug harm, but the workload of the police. And ever since we realized that, we've had a very, very good relationship with them. They have let us get on with it, and they have immediately recognized that this fits squarely into the category of safer communities together, which is exactly what they say on the sides of their cars. And it's an opportunity for them to actually do that just by letting us get on with it. And we've actually had police recommend to festivals that Know Your Stuff or another drug checking service be brought in to address some of the issues that they're seeing, because they know it works. And so, you know, the police, I don't think it's the police that are the problem in this situation. It's the law that is putting the police in a position where they have to arrest people.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought would happen when these sort of when it picked up, that it would be the front line sort of realizing what was going on, and it's filtering back, and hopefully it gets to people that will realize that's the aim, that you want to reduce harm, you find an excellent tool to get money out of organized crime, and then the flow on effects for that. And if it can just do that and not get caught up with a whole bunch of tough on crime rhetoric, you know, the old attitudes towards drug use. Alcohol's fine, of course, cigarettes fine, everything else very, very bad. You know, hopefully we can make some progress. Oh, good on you.
All right, Wendy, anything to leave us with?
Thanks. Well, I think what Chewy just said is very, very relevant, because most of what people believe about drugs is based in rhetoric. It's based in moral judgment. It is not based in science. It's not based in evidence. And it certainly isn't based in the well-being of citizens. So people who are hearing this notion of legal regulation for the first time and have never heard about harm reduction and having a gut reaction that says, no, we couldn't possibly do that, I would just ask them to sit down and ask themselves, has the prohibition law that we currently have reduced drug harm? Because every problem we have with drugs in this country has happened under prohibition. And that's what I'd like to leave you with.
Excellent. Wendy Allison from the Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Cheers, Wendy.
Sorry, I had to duck off there for a second. I just had something fall down off the wall, but we're back again. Anything you want to wrap up with on that conversation, Chewy?
Yeah, look, I think there's decades of really weird attitudes towards drugs, and it's all out of government propaganda and industry propaganda and things that have filtered out from other countries and other societies through to us and that sort of thing. And I think we have a real blind spot when it comes to our recreational drugs of choice. And I think whenever there is talk about decriminalization or turning it into a health and addiction issue rather than a criminality thing, people don't really think of the puzzle pieces for this. It's not just saying, okay, the cops aren't going to arrest anybody for having drugs. It's also removing the criminal element from it. The reason that they make so much money from it is because they control it. Yeah. And it's that difficult step. And as Wendy says, Portugal hasn't got it right either, that it's decriminalized holding drugs. It's still criminal to be a dealer. Portugal didn't make that extra step of going, okay, we need to license and tax and quality control the supply as well. And that I think would be the hardest thing to get across the line.
And ironically, in New Zealand, like the people, the naysayers, the politicians who voted against legalizing cannabis, or whatever level it was exactly at, are the same ones today who are desperately looking for hundreds of millions of dollars for their tax cuts. If they had done that with cannabis, we got told it was $500 million a year tax take for a government. So there's some strange ironies there as well. Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of, people can do what they want with their bodies when they're of the right age, and if it goes bad, having something to fall back on for them. I mean, like Wendy said, alcoholics have a place to go. and it goes bad for them. 99% of people who drink alcohol don't need it, but they're not necessarily. I mean, if their actions commit a crime whilst they are drunk, different story. But just the fact of being an alcoholic doesn't cause you to have interactions with the police if you're in the comfort of your own home and that sort of thing. So, I don't know.
Absolutely. I think that comment right at the end of like all the harm that we have now and all the criminality we have now around drug use is under prohibition. So it's not working.
Yeah.
So try something else.
All right, team. Let us move on. And I know we had a bit of fun with this this evening, the new setup here, the new desk. But there is a bit of a serious side to this as well. And it's not just because we can go like that, or like that, or even more fun that we can go
like that and speak to you from beyond the grave.
Sorry, I left it off. But the really important thing I want to share with you about this is because the reason we've got this and we're able to continue to do this is because of the patrons. It's as simple as that. We won't sugarcoat it. In fact, last week, this is the Patreon page. If you're a member, this is how you see it. I even put it up on the Patreon page. And I said to people, I told our supporters, financial supporters, exactly what we are doing. It's called the Roadcaster Pro 2. It costs about $1,200. And this is speaking to people who are our patrons. But as investors in what we do, I wanted you to know that both how grateful we are, but also how you show a tangible way your financial investment will enable us not to only continue to bring the content you want to see, but will also help us keep speaking to the voters and general people in society not yet reached and are seeing more and more in our chats. So the thing about being a patron to us is, yes, it's a tangible thing that me and Chewy get to do, but you get to watch it and you enjoy it. But it's almost like, it sounds really weird, but it's the pay it forward thing a little bit. The other people who are getting to hear and see messages that aren't anywhere else on the internet necessarily, in New Zealand at least, you're a part of that. And this is the comment I like most of all, Chewy. Colt put it on. Said, good, we need high quality gear for our high quality show. So being a patron, you're a part of the team. You're a part of the family. And I'm not wanting to do this as a hard sell, like, hey, sign up tonight. But I just want you to be aware that if you're enjoying this show and you're watching it and consuming it and passing it, great, fantastic. But if I'm being realistic, the only reason we enjoy this show, all of us, and you get to enjoy it, is because of the patrons. Because, just of the computer equipment, we've had a video card go $600. The whole desk blow up $1,200. And I get to sit in my studio and I get to do silly things with it and have fun with it. But really, if it wasn't for you patrons being involved with what we're doing, then this wouldn't be happening. Wouldn't be happening for you guys to have fun and enjoy and be with us playing silly games. But I think maybe more importantly, these messages wouldn't be out there for other people to hear and see and get a hold of. So that's where I kind of just wanted to share with people, Chewy. And look, I don't have any. Sorry.
Can you bring that up again?
Yeah.
The screen that you just set up.
That one, yeah.
The next Patreon's stretch goal is to replace Pat's bog roll with some tissue meant for the face.
Do you know why I got
the butthole?
Thank you. Because I needed tissue paper today, and there was a whole bunch in the look how new it is. Look, there's a label maker here because we put labels on.
We'll upgrade you to 4-ply luxury.
Shut up. So anyway, Chewy gets into the middle of my big emotional speech there. Thank you for being a part of what we do. And I haven't done the new billboard and put it all up so you can all see it because I've been setting up a desk today. But there's been some new people who have come on board. Thank you to you guys. As I speak, Catherine has just edited their membership, so they've changed levels inside that. But if you want to see what we're doing, you want to be a part of what we do, patreon.com/Big Hairy News. And I mean, it'll enable
us to continue to share in this way that
many people might find amusing. So when David Seymour comes back on, maybe this is the voice we'll use.
I actually think there's another way. The thing about this Roadcaster as well is you can assign different channels those effects. So I could actually put it on the StreamYard channel, which is your channel, and that means
David Seymour would sound like this, and I'd sound
like this. So, we can maybe do that just for fun. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway. All right, Chewy. Anything in the chat? Anything else you want to get to?
There is a question about the fancy new desk from Gary. Are you able to store your own sampled sounds on that
Yep.
desk?
Should we get a bit? Should we nerd out
we
a
are
bit?
going to have some fun with that.
So this here, these buttons here that I'm showing you, these are where all the effects and stuff are. But there's actually 8 channels of this, and if you can't really see, but if you go over
8?
one more, there you go. See, they're all blank. It's because there's none in those ones. So there's 8 of them.
Fantastic.
So 8 to 64, and these are they're the preloads. Although I don't know, there might be ways to do
Other voices, synthesizers.
and stuff, but yeah, we can. So basically, you know, various quotes from Mr. Luxon that we like to go back to time and time again will probably end up being on there when I've got some more time and I stop playing with the silly voices and start putting it together for work purposes.
And Sarah moves that every super chat tonight gets Pat to press the air horn. There we go.
What about this one? There's actually
Fantastic.
There you go. Sorry. All right. Let us continue on. Although this is Chewy's one when you have a good joke. I like that. That's quite good.
Hey.
Yeah. And when it's a bad joke. So, anywho. Hey,
So it's just going to be used for bullying.
I want to be honest with you guys. The story around the numbers fluff up, pardon me, around the prison things, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like, I watched Breakfast this morning. Stay with me, baby birds. And Luxon was explaining it, and I was kind of going, you know, if this was my team in, they'd be making a mistake. You know, they've got their numbers wrong. Is it really the biggest deal in the world? But Chewy, then I saw the press conference. So let's just go through this together, shall we? All of us. And see if my initial thoughts of, it's not such a big deal. Honestly, that was my thought. So you know how people always talk about we just jump all over national data? It's like my initial thought was, yeah, they messed up their numbers. They said one wrong thing, no big deal, really. So let's have a look at this and we'll go through it. So we're actually going to do it backwards, right? This is Breakfast this morning, them talking about the fluff up over the numbers and what it all means for Waikeria Prison.
Look, there was a bit of a mix-up in the press conference. I spoke to Mark on the way out and we quickly clarified it. Essentially, there's 455 beds at Waikeria Prison today. There's 600 beds that will come on track to, next year. And what we announced yesterday was an additional 810 on top of that. And as you quite rightly identified, Waikeria will have a prison capacity of up to 1,865 beds. But also in that announcement was actually, we want to hire almost 700 new correction staff at the front line. We want to make sure that we've got pay increases set aside for them. And importantly, we want to be able to offer rehabilitation to remand prisoners. We want to spend almost $80 million doing that.
So honestly, it didn't feel like the biggest deal in the world to me.
Their lives around much quicker.
They made a mistake at a press
really
conference.
Good package as we try and
Sure.
as we work very hard to restore law and order.
Sure. As you say, it was a really good package, but unfortunately that was all lost in what was a fairly confusing announcement. It was embarrassing, Prime Minister, that there were so many mistakes.
Well, no, just say a bit of a mix-up on the Waikeria prison beds. As I said, we clarified that very, very quickly.
Anyway, then he continues on, Joe, and he goes through all his numbers and he goes back to we're going to be hard on crime. And I'm trying to be honest with you guys. I did watch that and I did kind of go, whatever. People make mistakes. And then, Chewy, I watched the press conference and my mind was changed. So let's have a look at part. This is TV3 news from last night. So that one was from this morning, and this was actually from last night. We didn't use it because I was like, I should probably find out how bad it was. It was this bad.
The government is investing $1.9 billion in corrections to deliver more frontline corrections officers, more prison capacity, and more support for offenders to turn away from a life of crime.
As the government amps up its tough on crime talk, it's boasting funding to add 810 new beds at Waikeria, except all is not as it seems.
The 810 new beds, are they on top of the 500 that are already being built at Waikeria?
No.
So you're only doing 200 extra beds, not 800 extra beds?
No.
There's 800 extra beds going into the system.
But 600 of them were funded by the Labor government.
Just 200 more beds, they say, not 800.
I think what we're doing is we're restating our commitment as the incoming government to get that delivered.
The government couldn't say how much the total prison capacity would increase by as compared to current capacity.
So just remember, this is the announcement. The announcement for the prison, they couldn't say that. And look, I'm still even going, like, not right now, but when I was watching it for the first time, they fluffed their numbers. Is it really a big deal? Cho, you want to say anything before we keep going?
I think it is a big deal. When you're getting the press into a room and making a big announcement, you've got to realize that you're talking to a room full of people that are going to crawl inside your words.
Yep.
They are going to go and they're going to run your numbers, and they also have a fucking memory.
Yep.
This is some basic kindergarten level stuff. And that's without even touching on the fact of they're pouring money into a prison. They're not pouring money into stopping people getting to prison.
Yeah.
Like
No,
Mark Mitchell banging on about making New Zealand safer. You literally aren't making it safer because they've already done the crime that puts them in jail.
I think you actually mean Mark
Mitchell. I think my favorite is how he says billions. Billions.
So, Chewy, you already jumped off the deep end. Yeah, it's a problem. I'm just saying, when I watched this for the first time, at that point, I was still going, is it really the biggest deal that they fluff some things? Yeah, it's not very good. Look, now let's get to the end of it, because it gets extraordinarily worse. Trust me.
Cool.
So what is the current capacity of Waikeria Prison?
How many prisons now?
At the moment, the Waikeria Prison hasn't been delivered, so it won't have...
There are prisoners at Waikeria right now, aren't there?
So that's the old prison. I'm talking about the new prison. I'll have to check on those numbers.
Nor could it say how much the extension would cost.
How much is that extra 200 beds going to cost?
Well, I mean, I can't give you a number now because it's commercially sensitive.
It's budget.
The PM then...
That's actually a really interesting point. He's saying it's commercially sensitive. Are they not going to release how much this is going to cost? That's in the budget. That should be absolutely front and center. They kind of say to reporters, no, we can't talk about that commercial sensitivity. No. It's our money. You can't do that. That was more telling, that answer, than I think News Hub gave it.
Wrongly suggested that the 1.9 billion was all operating expense. That means not new buildings.
Yes, it's all operating.
So none of it's for actually building the buildings?
Well, in that budget is the money that we need to expand Waikeria by 810 beds, and that money is also the money that we need to make sure that we are expanding the number of prison officers and corrections officers that we've got.
Quickly clarified.
Can I just absolutely double check you on that? Is there no capital funding in that?
No, so the capital funding is inside the $1.9 billion.
The announcement also includes $484 million in savings that the government has redirected from the back office to the front line. That'll pay for 685 more corrections staff, 470 of them prison officers, while $78 million will be spent on rehab for remand prisoners.
But all of this is to say that safety and victims are clearly this government's priority.
Serious about tough on crime, just not so serious about knowing the numbers.
So, yeah. So by the end of that thing, I was going, okay, yep, this is a big deal. Incompetence, thy name is Mark Mitchell. And I do wonder, to be honest with you, about how much incompetence we can throw at Christopher Luxon for that. I wonder if he's going to go on, my middle manager's got all across us, we can leave it up to them. And then when his middle manager wasn't, and Luxon had to jump in and try and cover some stuff, and then he gave out wrong information, they got corrected by the minute, yes. Yeah, so my initial thoughts this morning when watching Breakfast was like, all politicians get numbers wrong from time to time. Then watching the actual press conference, I'm like, holy shit, this is abysmal. The reporter for that then goes on to say, this is the worst she's ever seen a press conference by any government ever. I'm like, okay, yes, it's a big deal. I agree. I'm with you, Joey.
Do you think there's a moment that we're like, maybe we shouldn't take Mark into this press conference about his portfolio because he might have to think on his feet.
Yeah.
Which is something he's incapable of doing. The number of flubs that he said when talking to actual humans is beyond the pale. It's just a shit show. Shambolic shower of shit.
Because IKEA says, thank you for the super chat, that's why CEOs have a finance department, Mr. Luxless. Yeah, exactly. Nikora, for a super chat, thank you, says, Minister Mitchell, the Merc without a mouth.
Oh, we should be so lucky.
Yeah, maybe that's what we need to forward on. Just what we hear as well. Other late fee there from Jezza. Jezza says late fee. And we need to build a Chewy's rant intro button. And also, Mr. Arvids, thank you for your super chat, $15. Mr. Arvids says, here's some money to go towards some better internet or better webcam for Chewy. You know what, Chewy? We're going to do that. We're going to get Chewy better mic and better camera. Yeah, no, we'll do it. We'll definitely do it, 100%. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what patrons do. The money you go towards, some of it will go towards
after the toilet paper.
After the toilet paper, it will definitely go towards sorting out some more equipment for Chewy, without question. Good call. Very good call. So anyway, let's just keep going, because there's another part of the conversation today that, I'll be honest, again, I went, the 9th floor has had $50,000 spent on Luxon's office. And again, my initial reaction was a bit like, is this a bit of a... I didn't feel the need to jump down his throat with the headline. No, I didn't. Because there's also... Like, I was speaking to someone out in the street the other day, and they were like, have you heard under national $30 million to do up, government house? And I'm like, yeah, but that's what would have done and would have been, and Luxon doesn't make that decision. And, $30 now or $50 million in, 3 years when it gets into more disrepair. So part of me is like that, right? And I'm doing it again, right? And I'll tell you that maybe my position at the end of this conversation, Joey, will be very different from what I'm hinting at the start. But I did think, again, and I'm just trying to be, fair to Luxon, a fair commentator, that if it's parliamentary services who have made that decision, it's not really about Luxon, it's just them doing it. That was my initial thought. Now, I can see you bubbling already, so I'm not going to let you talk yet, because you'll give away the ending to our story. You'll give away spoilers. Let's just have a look at the story. This is only a short clip. It's only like a minute as to what's happening. It's not just on the 9th floor, but Luxon's office in particular.
What do you do for a living?
Life's pretty cool at the top.
Oh, do you have a cool office?
Actually, that's it up there.
The 9th floor feeling extra fancy lately as it got...
Okay, so in the sound bar, we need a vomit one as well, don't we? Honestly, it's what we need a one as well, yeah.
Upgrade after Christopher Luxon took office.
So welcome to my office. This is the office of the Prime Minister of New Zealand.
As the new government slashes public spending, Newshub can reveal $57,000 was spent on upgrading the PM's Beehive office.
Are you following your own edict that every single dollar of taxpayer money is being spent carefully?
We're doing everything we can to make sure that we're getting good value for taxpayers and we're not treating them like an ATM machine.
Premier House wasn't good enough for him. Now it turns out the 9th floor office of the Beehive also wasn't good enough for him.
An answer to a written Parliament question says the Parliamentary Service has a replacement and upgrade cycle which is conducted every year no matter which party's in power, and the $57,000 cost involved installing video conferencing gear. There was already video conferencing equipment in the office. Labor used it for cabinet meetings during COVID.
If it was okay to run the country during the period of COVID-19, I can't see why they would need to spend thousands of dollars on new gear.
It's not.
So that's the setup for this conversation, Joey. And part of me goes, it's cost of living. I don't disagree with all of that, but parliamentary services got in there. Now, there is one very different comment that comes out from Jenna Lynch. I'm going to play the end of that same story. Right, this goes for about a minute 35. And with her investigative reporting, she comes across one particular comment that was about what Luxon said about the equipment in said office. Because my first thing goes, well, if it's due if it's due to be upgraded, then upgrade it. Not a big deal. That's what happens. But it doesn't quite seem that maybe that was the case. It does possibly seem, from what Jenna Lynch was saying, is that maybe Luxon made some noise about the quality of what it used to be, so wanted it upgraded, which is a very different conversation.
Well, Jenna joins us now. Kia ora, Jenna. Have we heard anything more from the PM's office on that refurbishment?
Yeah, I did ask them some more questions for detail on what that $57,000 was spent on, whether it was all on the video conferencing equipment or whether there's any new furniture or the like purchased. They aren't operating with perfect information at the moment, but here's what we know so far. $20,000 was spent on the video conferencing equipment. Basically, when the PM took over, he looked at it and was surprised by the quality of it. They are making no apologies for spending that money because...
So that's the line. He was surprised by the quality of it. The quality of the video conferencing that Labor had used through fucking COVID wasn't good enough for Luxon. So that is the point I think we need to remember. He was surprised by the quality of it. I guess Air New Zealand in their equivalent of their ninth floor has the best of the best, fair enough. But when he got to the ninth floor of his public servant's job, he was surprised by the quality of it. And then Parliamentary Service went and redid it. It's a very different story from going just Parliamentary Services redid it. We're going to get to the end of this, Chewie, and then I'll let you explode.
Core equipment for a modern workplace. That $37,000 that was left over, they think most of it was spent on computer equipment, though I'm told an office chair was purchased. News Hub also understands that the carpet has been replaced on the 9th floor, though that wasn't included in the $57,000 cost because it's not technically equipment or furniture. Now, there's a couple of schools of thoughts on this. One, the Prime Minister needs this equipment. He speaks to world leaders through video conferencing. It needs to be high spec because it needs to pass national security tests. On the other hand, when you come into government demanding cuts to public spending, every single dollar that you spent on yourself comes under that extra level of public scrutiny, and there's been kind of a snowball effect of this for Luxon. That accommodation supplement, MPs taking pay rises and now kitting out his office, all while Kiwi households are struggling to pay their rents, mortgages and grocery bills, and while public servants are being fired.
So there you go. And on that point, 100% on board. So look, I'm just being honest with you guys. At the start, I was like, you know, party A beats up party B, and then they flip over and party B beats up party. Is it one of those? And of both of those times that I tried, well, I didn't try to, I was wondering about giving the incumbent government a bit of credit. It kind of taught me a lesson that maybe I shouldn't in the future, Chewie, because as I said, he looked at it and was surprised by the quality of it. So that's come from Luxon saying this is not good enough. He may not have said so it needs to be replaced, but I'm sure his aides, his PR people, his whatever people would have made sure that Parliamentary Services, that they knew that it wasn't up to spec for the PM. And so you can't really just lay it off on the Parliamentary Services. And on top of all of that, of course, as has been said by Jenna Lynch there, we're in a cost of living crisis, public servants are losing their job. If it was fit for purpose already, be it 1 or 2 specs down, that was a public servant's salary that went into the 9th floor Prime Minister's office, which could have waited for a few more years. Yours, Chewie.
I like him because he's not a politician. A politician would have seen this trap fucking 4 miles away. And you can't just parrot the line, Kiwi households are doing it hard. We know it's hard out there. I've got to make every dollar count. Can't use the public as an ATM machine, and then turn around and do exactly that. Yeah. If you are spending money in that environment, you need to tell us. You need to tell us exactly what it's for. Give us your justification. Like listening to that list, yes. Security needs to be important for anything with a national leader that's using the internet. You know, that I can go with. Yep, you need teleconferencing. It was already there. Yeah. Is it something that
was used through COVID? Imagine that it was used through COVID, so it was actually there and managed to be used probably every day, several hours a day, to communicate with people all over New Zealand and all over the world.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you could have gone, is it good enough to last? Can I get things moving forward? Is there something we can push to next year?
Okay, here we go.
Because I've just come out of getting my ass kicked on an accommodation supplement. I'm getting my ass kicked left, right, and center. Here's something where I can go, hey, look, I just saved 50 grand because I kept my old office chair and I kept the old teleconferencing stuff.
So let me give you something, right? Because how you've just spelt it.
Because sometimes we just need a second-hand Corolla, a good, reliable car to get us from point A to point B.
And then they get in and they want the Ferrari in the 9th floor office. They want the latest and greatest up-to-date communications equipment when the
second-hand Corolla
probably would have done the job just fine.
Yeah,
I think that's conversation over, isn't it?
This is the whole thing. The words and the actions do not match up. They never have with these guys, and every time they get an opportunity to show us what they're made of, they fucking do. And we get this. You can't sack people and then do something like this. You can't make massive cuts to school lunches and have us pay for your apartment as well.
Yeah.
You know, and then get pissy when you get caught on it. And you'll get pissy when you get caught on this as well. And you push back on this. And then when you are talking about some big numbers, you get those numbers wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's just a shower of shit. It's like we're just trying to stack it up and it's all slippery and just, oh God, that's a bad analogy and I apologize and withdraw. Yeah, they're not good at this.
I'm sorry I did that on some level, but Jeremy has just pointed out that the desk has already paid for itself.
Absolutely.
Oh dear, I might be in trouble. Do you honestly think they're ever going to come on ever again after we've got access to that? I think we've now found the Nicola Willis voice, haven't we? Forevermore. But look, I mean,
I think
nutting into what the point, but nutting into what the point was, when you criticise Labor for their spending and selling the second-hand cheaper option would do, and then you get the top-notch equipment, yeah, fucking hypocrites. So I started this whole conversation with going, I was thinking about it, no, their standards said second-hand Corolla. And remember, it wasn't just Willis either, because exactly the same messages went out at the same time on Twitter. That was a National Party messaging. Their standards was second-hand Corolla. Until you get into government and you want the best of the best when it comes to communication. Yep. Bullshit. Yep.
We haven't got money for national infrastructure. We've always got to be making compromises and that sort of thing for national level infrastructure, hospitals, ferries, that sort of thing, or putting resources into future generations, or keeping people out of prison rather than having to expand prisons. It's odd and infuriating.
All right, team, here's a real quick one for you, and I believe we picked this last week. I saw someone giving you credit for picking it, Chewy, but I thought I picked it, so we'll just say we.
I think we both agreed that it would be Sam.
To front stuff, new 6 p.m. TV bulletin alongside other key talent, and I believe Gina Lynch is listed in there for going away. News Hub presenter Samantha Hayes confirmed a new solo role for the 6 p.m. show. Bunch of other people there as well. Journalists including Gina Lynch, Laura Tupou, Ollie Ritchie, Juliet Speedy, Zane Small, and Heather Keats are among the group of new hires as well. Leading the team is one of the country's most experienced broadcast producers, Claire Watson, who has been appointed 6 p.m.'s executive producer, while Steve Gore-Smith, currently News Hub Senior Manager of Operations, will become Staff Director of Video Operations and Technology. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it was pretty much as you would think, pretty much as is going to happen. I'm not a naysayer. In fact, I want these guys to be successful because I don't care what people say. More news options is a better option for a thriving democracy. Even biased news, if people are going to play that card, more news is better because you can still research and say what they're saying. I'm not saying they are biased. I'm saying even if a news entity was biased, more is better. Always more is better. And I do have this little nagging part inside me though that just goes, Today FM. You know, these media companies who have tried something to compete and just have folded. How are they going to do this? How are they going to do this? How are they going to make it? And I know that what's happening, in case you're unclear, is Warner Brothers Discovery is paying a fee to Stuff to produce the news, which means they know their budgets, right? So they'll know if they're getting, $2.5 million or what. I have got no idea what it is, by the way, that they can allocate that and they've got it in their war chest. But still, I hope the best for them. But we'll see. What do you think, Joe? Any thoughts around that?
I think the proof will be in the pudding. I really like Sam as a presenter and as a journalist. She's an excellent anchor. So I think it's a good call.
Yeah. Yep. And as you said, it's good for us because then we can still clip their product and share it around here.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to move on now because TVNZ got a bit of a scoop tonight. They managed to, I was going to say corner. They didn't corner Anne Genter. They caught up with Anne Genter, I think, at the airport as she was leaving to head off to the Chatham Islands. We've been told, I was going to say I've been told, I'm not saying that I've heard, we've been told that this trip to the Chatham Islands was planned for months. I feel like the Greens should release Anne Genter's diary as evidence of that, because it doesn't feel that way to many people. But if they went, well, look, here's that's been in the, that would cancel any of these questions whatsoever. But the conversation does go on about the behaviour of Anne Genter, and perhaps, do you know the florist, right, Chewy? I've read several places, and I'm not casting aspersions here, and this is not a factual statement necessarily. It's an opinion-based statement of other people. I've read other people say, famous kind of public complainer. Doesn't mean anything that Anne did was right, but kind of a famous in that area agitator as well. And maybe
she is well known in Wellington. Maybe
Anne Genter, where she needs to get some skills and learn some more, is how to just go water off a duck's back, bro. Because it sounds like we had Clint on last week, Chewy, and we talked about this. And Clint knows Anne quite well. They went to university or something together, and he always talked about her being passionate and da-da-da-da-da-da. So, yeah, I don't want to make it seem like I'm putting up any kind of defence for Anne Genter. We all agree that what happened in the house was absolutely atrocious. But can I say something? Let me say something as well. When people say, what if it was this male? Would you be doing... my answer is yes. If there was a male standing over a female, I would have different standards for it, not for the technicalities, but for the practicality of what's going on. I'm going through this thing at the moment where I'm realizing more and more, like, for example, if we were debating over a protest, would we have different standards to peaceful protesters versus violent Nazi protesters? Yes, we would. You have different standards depending on the circumstances. A small, unscary female standing over a male versus a 6'4", 140-kilo male standing over. Yes, it's different. It is different. Now, is it different in the way that someone should be treated in a workplace report? No, should be no different there. But yes, let's just be practical about things. In society-wide, it is two very different things, and it's two very different conversations. So.
Yeah, I see a couple of things here. Okay, the actions in the house, of course, they've got to stomp on that. Like, I understand her frustration.
Sure.
Like, I 100% understand the frustration, but you're in the house and you've got to rise above that. But yes, it's equal footing, right? If a man did that, that would be bad. If it's a woman, like I've seen people say, oh, well, it couldn't possibly be intimidating because she's a woman. It could be.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with it either. But yeah, the hand in this case has got to be equal. I think the stories that flowed out after that are an opportunistic beat up. The florist especially, it just reeks of bullshit of this person immediately seeing her opportunity to pick up the phone and go to the press.
Yeah. Yeah, get some publicity for her florist.
Yeah, it won't work in the way that she thinks it will, but there you go. Yeah, and again, it's another business owner thinking that somehow the only way that people get to her florist is by car. Yeah, I worry about these pylons when there's something like this.
Yeah.
And it's another female MP, and it's another Green. It's another one on the left, and yeah, it's she does need to have a better coping mechanism on this, not because she's wrong, but because it's being used against her.
Well, hang on, not because she's wrong in her position, but she's absolutely wrong in the house, and that's where I say in the house. If a male did it to a female in the house, they should be treated under the way MPs get censured exactly the same. In society, we have a different standard for a female intimidating a male versus a male intimidating a female. And we have different standards because it's a different thing. Even if it's the same word, it's a different thing. But unfortunately, what Anne has done is she's given fodder to all of those people to scream hypocrite And there's really not a defence for that because of her actions, other than if you're honestly thinking this is the same as if, Doocey had stood over her, then you're a dishonest actor. Yes, in the House, they should be treated exactly the same. They should be censured the same way. They should be punished the same way. In society, it's a different situation. Let's just be honest about it. It's a different situation. Anyway, let's actually get to the story, because One News got a pretty good scoop here, and Julianne speaks to things she has to learn out of this as well. Here we go.
Complaint, but you have my apology on the record in the House.
The Speaker today ruled in favour of an investigation.
I find that a question of privilege does arise, and that question stands referred to the Privileges Committee.
Members of the public have since raised similar complaints against the MP, florist Laura Newcombe calling Julianne Genter a bully.
I went into her shop to buy flowers for a friend who is in hospital, very, very unwell, and I was surprised at the level of anger.
Laura Newcombe strongly opposes cycleways. Did you know that you were walking into her shop?
I was not aware of that, no.
Things got heated.
I really understand that she feels very upset about decisions that she thinks I'm involved in, and I should have walked out immediately.
The MP admits she pulled out her phone and filmed the florist.
Yeah. See, that's ridiculous. Terrible move, bad PR. You need to learn about de-escalation and walking away, without question.
Yep. Sorry for pulling out my phone. I was under a lot of stress in that situation, and I should have walked away.
Another business owner claims the MP grabbed her by the arm. Do you accept that?
I don't recall that aspect of our interaction. If I did, I apologise.
Julianne Genter says she's undertaking de-escalation training.
I accept that I need some support to get better at de-escalation.
Is it passion or is it anger?
I am very passionate about the subjects that I work on.
You've used the word passionate. Is that a cop-out?
Not at all, because it's important for MPs to be passionate.
And as for her future in politics,
I've had a lot of messages of support over the last few days that say that people think I should stick with it.
If it does happen again, will you ask for her resignation?
We're actually focused on making sure that this doesn't happen again. We're not going to deal with...
If it does, will she need to resign?
We're not going to deal with hypotheticals. Thank you.
As for her trip to the Chatham Islands and refusing to speak to wider media,
I am the MP for the Chatham Islands. This forum has been planned for months.
But while it's wheels up for Julianne Genter now, there's no escaping the problems back at Parliament.
There you go. That's the sum total of the conversation. Good scoop for TVNZ. Good on them. They got it. I don't know. Obviously, Maiki knew where she was and when she was going to be there, and yada yada. It's overall, Chewy. It's always really unfortunate for any political party or business or charitable group when one person does something within that portrays a narrative, a negative narrative in society, and helps sort of echo that narrative, be it real or not. And so it's sad that it's being used as fodder by what I would say are dishonest actors on the right on some level. But still, like I say, what happened in the House should be treated as harshly no matter who did it in the House.
And I think the Greens as a party are reacting to this perfectly. Like they have offered the training, they are supporting the person, they are open to the investigation. I can't fault them for that. I would say, as far as the timing of Julianne heading to the Chathams, she was on an Air Force plane that was absolutely scheduled months ahead of time.
Yeah, right.
I believe her on that. It's unfortunate timing because you can make that narrative.
Yeah.
But in this case, I believe the timing.
No, that's a really good way of doing it. And can I might go back and play a bit more, because I agree with you. And, Clint, who is Clint Smith, who sometimes joins us, who was an advisor to senior politicians and worked with the Greens. I asked him about that, about handling the crisis, and he said that they were doing it perfectly. I want to go back, actually, because I'm pretty sure at the end of this, Maiki's like, the Green leadership, they're all a piece of shit for doing this, and we'll just have a listen.
What Julianne Genter had to say.
It's clear Anne Genter wanted to have her say. She wanted to set the record straight in some way, despite the processes at play in terms of the Parliamentary Privileges Committee, but also the constraints of her own party processes in this incident. What started off as a shocking incident in the House has quickly snowballed into something much, much bigger. Now, in terms of the Green Party, Anne Genter told me that she has let the party down. She admits that and she apologises for that. However, it is so clear that the co-leaders of the Green Party, their handling of the situation requires greater scrutiny. They have...
Yeah, no, see, I agree with you, Jude.
No,
I'll play the rest of this, but yeah, I don't see that at all either.
Refused to front Anne Genter for media interviews, and today they also told the media that they would not strip the MP of her transport portfolio. Now, that transport portfolio, that is where a lot of the issues of intimidating behaviour, claims of bullying, that is what they are linked to. So the Green Party clearly refusing to take any great disciplinary action there for their MP. In comparison, the National Party MP, Tim van der Molen, when he was found to be intimidating a fellow member of Parliament here, Christopher Luxon, quickly stripped him of all of his spokesperson portfolios. Now, Martima Davidson says it's not fair to make the same comparison. However, you can be sure a number of members of the public will be raising eyebrows at the Green Party stance on this. They have had headache after headache with their Green MPs this year, one MP falling over after the other. This was an opportunity for them to show some strength in leadership, some strength in calling discipline on the MPs, and they have clearly failed it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the way it was kind of spelt out there, I sort of, I disagree. I think there's a valid point to at least ask the question about standing someone down, even temporarily while the investigation goes on. I think that's a fair commentary, but the way it's basically been said that they should definitely stand her down and the leadership has dropped the ball. I'm like, nah, I don't see it that way. I think they've
don't
been...
see that at all.
Yeah, so that feels like a bit of commentary from TVNZ that's like, maybe reaching a bit. I don't know. What's Maiki trying to do there? She's trying to, put a flag in the ground to say, see, I wonder if this happens sometimes. And okay, let's not talk about Maiki. I have no idea who she is. I've never spoken to her. I don't know where she sits. But sometimes journalists who want to show that they are even-handed kind of go harder on the side that they think the public think they support. Those wokey people at TVNZ, so you just go in and nail it. It felt like a bit of a beat up at the end. I mean, I think it's fair criticism to at least ask the question about standing her down temporarily, but the rest of it, I think the Greens have done pretty well on this. They removed her straight away. They censured her straight away. They said it was like the phrasing they used the day that it all happened, unacceptable, this, that, the other thing, basically taking the florist side. I don't see it like Maiki's seeing it.
No, I think it smacks of the, we've got to make this a political scandal, that hyperbole in political reporting that I am really not enjoying lately. Look, it's unfortunate that the Greens have had so many opportunities to practice a response to this, but in all of it, I can't fault their reactions. It is the Green Party. It is measured and transparent, and they seem to take it all on the chin. So I think the ridiculous question of theoreticals of will she resign if it happens again, pointless. It's a pointless question.
I think one thing can be agreed, that tonight the Greens they're just feeling a bit. Just saying. No? Or are they feeling a bit like that? Or maybe they're a bit. Maybe.
All I can say is if I was Anne Genter, as soon as that ramp was up on that Air Force plane and wheels up, I'd be like, oh, thank fuck.
Yeah, but you make a very good point. If it's an Air Force plane, they don't just go, hey, I've decided on Friday I'm going to go to the Chathams on Monday. Can you take me? Yeah, it's well planned in advance. A couple of texts that have come in, we'll get there for you guys. But this was actually about the previous story about the Prime Minister on the 9th floor. Frosty says, life must be so hard for our Prime Minister. Thank you for the super chat. Mr. Arvids wants you to know something, Chewy, that Kleenex tissues eucalyptus box, 140 pack is $5 at Countdown. So there you go.
Well, there you go.
That's plus the YouTube fee. So he's paying for the box there as well. And Jezza says, thank you for the super chat. He says, you can assault with a bed leg, but heaven forbid you yell at someone. I guess we'd also have to go back and see. We were pretty. I mean, he didn't give that away with that on this show. That's for sure. But yeah, Mr. Uffendale. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like saying, and I'm trying to think what I was thinking through, but kind of coming to the realization that I do grade some things on a curve, because not everything is equal. You know, if you're going to be protesting something and you're on the right side of history, I'm not going to expect the same things of you or hold you to the same standard for someone who is protesting on the wrong side of history, because you're wrong. So I'm getting more comfortable and I'm thinking it through more. So this is a little bit of a think as I speak moment. People, don't hold me to this, ad infinitum, but I'm beginning to think, you know what? People always talk about, it's got to be same for everyone. Well, no, because that's where nuance comes in and circumstances come in, and we got to figure it out, Like I without question, I knew, I didn't say it, but when we were talking about the Cornell West conversation, and there was Jenk went off about, an 80-year-old grandmother got punched by Israeli supporters, I knew without question at some stage in one of my feeds is going to be the Posey Parker situation coming up. And I knew that, and it did, of course, it came up. And because people want to make assumptions like, well, I guess you guys never worked, and they didn't watch it. Let's not go back there. Obviously we condoned it. Condoned it? What's the other one? What's the opposite of condoned?
Didn't condone.
Didn't condone
Condemned.
it. And we did the opposite. We were repulsed by that as well. But but I think it's human to go, let's sit back, weigh it up, see what the two sides say. Was what Julianne Genter done technically intimidating? Yes. Was the guy intimidated? Probably not. That's another thing. So to be intimidating, you need to probably intimidate. Was the 100-kilo man intimidated by her going off at him? Probably not. If it was the 100-kilo man doing it to a 50-kilo woman, would she be intimidated with the same sort of response? Maybe so. So this is the
you can
nuance
look
we
at
need
the
to talk through.
footage. You can look at the body language. Like, he wasn't. He was smirking through their interaction.
Yeah.
But it's not a question of going, well, a man can never be intimidated by a woman, so then Julianne Genter can cross the floor whenever she wants. That's not how Parliament works.
Yeah.
And
that statement's actually not true either. Of course, a man can be intimidated, but nuance would say in that moment, was that man intimidated? And if he was not, does that mean therefore it's not an intimidating action?
Yeah.
Do you need to have someone be intimidated to make the action intimidating or not? In saying all of that, not a defence, because whatever the Parliament decides needs to happen, fair enough, they're rules.
Alternative point of view, Pat. We have gone too long with MPs politely sitting in their seats and just shouting across the House. What we need is it Taiwan that has their parliaments devolve into fistfights every now and
All
then?
sorts of places, man.
Yeah, so maybe that's the thing. Is like there's a gong in the middle of the room, and if someone gets so upset that they go and ring the gong, it's on. It's fisticuffs.
This is
where's this one? Georgia.
Yeah.
That's
Come at me, bitch. That's what he's saying. Come at me. Oi!
There we go. Julianne
they're
Genter
all
off
in.
the top rope.
If that was the case in New Zealand, and this is potentially Parliament TV cut the signal pretty quick.
Cut the feed.
If that was the case, like if it was like, like in Anchorman, when all the news teams comes together at the end for the big fight. If that was the case, who's winning? If all the parliamentary, if all the parties are coming together, who's winning? I think ACT's losing. I think their history straight away. Who's winning though?
I don't know. I think Party Māori.
You reckon?
Yeah. Hey, suggestion for the spare buttons on your fancy new desk.
Yeah.
Tangent time. Talking about fighting in Wellington. I was talking to someone about one of my favourite bits of New Zealand history from old-timey colonial days.
Yes.
Is what the fuck was that?
I'm a little robot.
What?
Now I'm a big robot. Now I'm a little robot. Now I'm a big robot.
Sorry.
Wow. Anyway, as I say, one of my favourite bits of New Zealand history from old-timey colonial days. I'm never going to get this fucking story out, am I?
Say it again and use the word fucking again. So I'm never going to get this fucking story out.
I'm never going to get this fucking story out. No, you're too fucking slow, mate.
Okay, I'm not touching it.
Anyway, two lawyers got into it. One of them challenged the other to a duel, and they went and had it. One of the guys turns around, fires his pistol in the air. The other one shoots him in the groin, and he dies 4 days later.
Yeah, that happened quite a lot. Like back in the start of the America. If you watch Hamilton, although you don't like musicals, snob. Hamilton explains that quite normally. What happens when they've taken a front is they do a duel, but more often than not they just shoot straight up in the air, and that means honour has been served, and they keep on going. And it was rarer for someone to try and shoot the other person. So,
yep.
My dog's sleep growling.
Oh, dreams.
What did you say? That was rude.
Got to get better on the bleeping.
When
time
Seymour
delay.
comes
You
on.
can't get it right.
Anyway. All right, guys. I think that's us for tonight. I was just trying to flick through the show notes. I think that's everything. It feels like we're done, but it's so early for us. It's like it's not midnight yet, and we're about to head off.
Got to be honest, mate. I need to sleep.
Yeah. All right. So, should we go off
to the sleep in your bed?
Oh, okay. It sleeps off the table now.
Is this one better?
Worse, if anything.
I think this is my favourite.
You sound like Brooke. It's Brooke.
Corolla.
It's Brooke Van Velden. That's her voice.
A nice second-hand Corolla.
a nice second hand. This is supposed to be megaphone. Hey, yo, whoa. Doesn't really work there.
I think this is my favourite. So, if we have someone come on
who doesn't want to be identified, we can run that filter through that. Oh, the other thing about this thing, it's got Bluetooth. I can hook a phone, Bluetooth a phone to the desk, and we can take phone calls.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty scary, eh? Yeah. Anyway. Thank you, patrons, for giving us hours today of fun playing with buttons. Me and Jason. Thank you, Jason, for coming over today and helping out and set it all up. And
I am Optimus Prime.
I just saw that come up in the chat. Had to give it a go. Okay, guys, this has been great. Now, remember, tomorrow night we have the director from the Foreshore and Seabed documentary series coming on. It's on TVNZ on demand. TVNZ Plus it's called now. You can go and watch it. If you haven't seen it yet, and I haven't, because I've been busy
doing this most of today,
I'm going to watch it tomorrow during the day. If you want to be involved with the conversation, you want to know what we're talking about, you can go check it out before 9 o'clock tomorrow night, because that's when we're going to be back to do it again. All
and
good?
Look, people that think we're too biased and blind, strap in, because you'll see some criticism of old Auntie Helen there.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. All right, team. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being a part of what we do, patrons, again, and for viewers and listeners as well. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. If you want to contact us at any time, bighairynews@gmail.com, or you can get us through the Patreon page as well, Facebook and Twitters as well. So we'll catch you all tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.